back to the podcast. Hi, hello, how are you? Hope you're all doing well. As you can hear, I may be sounding a little better than other times. I am using a different microphone today. I don't know if you could possibly see that.
How
Kinda.
come? How come?
I was recording some voiceover stuff earlier, so this mic
Oh,
was plugged in. I usually don't use it for the podcast because it's overkill, and you may not even be able to hear the difference. You might though. Um, but it tends to be overkill for this in a way that it isn't for some voiceover stuff. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing good.
yeah. Hi, everybody. How are? I hope everybody's good. The world is for shit right now,
Tell me
but
about it.
I hope everybody's doing fine. A lot of confusion in our world today.
Tell me about it. I know you said you have some topics that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, it's
I
basically
know they're a bit hard hitting in that sense. So
yeah. So let's just say, what's your opinion? Because I've been getting a lot of different opinions down here, and nobody wants to come on the podcast because they don't want to argue. And I said, we don't argue, we just discuss our opinion. You know, and I always said, everybody has an opinion, everybody has an asshole. So,
that's true.
but there's so many things going on in the world today. Uh, I don't know if my opinions are correct, if my opinions are incorrect, or vice versa with you. But let me throw one topic out, okay?
Hmm.
And again, at my age, I got to remember that if I'm reading something, I'm reading it properly and interpreting it properly. So
Right.
I think I read an article where the Baptist churches, a whole bunch of them, practically all of them in the United States, are trying to overturn gay marriage.
Meaning they're trying to stop people for gay people from getting being allowed to get married.
Yeah, and overturn the judges, the Supreme Court decisions
Yeah.
on gay marriage. Plus, 9 states in the United States, and I think one of them is Michigan, won't approve of gay marriage. And not that I'm so hung up on gay marriage, but to me, uh, we should have a separation of church and state, right?
Correct.
And I don't think that any religious order should prevent people from getting married who are in love. Now, when I was talking to my friend, who I respect very much, he says he just doesn't want to see gay marriages taking place in his church. And I said, I can understand that. I said, but again, I don't think uh, it should be overturned because
Right.
if you're in love and you're not walking around, where a guy's wearing a dress and a woman's dress and
Hold on. That's a separate topic. We can touch that one in a minute. But I think what you brought up first was valid and important. If he does not want that in his church, he's entitled to that, or his church is, shall we say? Because mind you, he's not the pastor of that church. So if that priest or pastor wants to, by all means. But there's nothing wrong with him advocating against that in his own church. If that's what he wants to do, that's his freedom of religion right there, his freedom of speech and his freedom of opinion. Sure.
I agree. I agree.
But and by that standard, by that understanding, sorry, that should not be codified into law. It should not be forced upon the public that they cannot allow gay marriage. Allowing gay marriage does not force anyone to adhere to gay marriage in terms of every church has to promote and allow gay marriage in their church, but preventing it stops all of it. And so that's one of the problems that lies in this, and also the fact that the objectively there's nothing wrong with gay marriage. Objectively, factually, there's nothing wrong with it. You personally may have a problem with it. You may not like it. You may feel uncomfortable about it. Your religion may say otherwise. Those are all opinions. You may
Right.
believe your religion to be fact, but there are over 3,000 of them, and we're not going to sit here and debate whose is fact.
That's
So
correct.
you are going off of your feelings and your opinions. That does not mean you get to dictate law off of those things because the law is supposed to be just and objectively moral, like morally objective and fair. And if we're going off of your personal opinions, that's not any of those things.
Yeah, well, again, depends how I read the article. Um, I don't want to use my age as a, say that I had a problem with the comprehension, but
No,
again,
the news articles also tend to write in ways if you're not reading it from straight center reporting places, they can be superfluous and sensationalizing.
yeah.
So
And then again, 9 states trying to outlaw gay marriage. One of them was Michigan, which I was very surprised. Michigan, you know.
again, it's rooted in religion. The dominant religion in this country, or the two dominant in this country, have twisted their own religion to be against gay marriage,
Mhm.
um, with no factual backing that can be rooted in reality, other than my book says these people can't be happy together. And it's damnation upon the earth and then
Mhm.
they it's absolute BS. Absolute BS in the utmost sense. Um, yeah. So as for that, yeah. To touch on men wearing dresses and women wearing men's clothes, I don't see there to be a problem with that in the slightest. It's clothing. We only gender clothing because we've hit that like because society is materialistic in that sense and they're judgmental in that sense. But a man wears a skirt in the US and it's a problem, but a man wears a skirt in Scotland and all of a sudden it's okay.
Yeah,
So
well,
uh, personally, I don't there's nothing wrong with men wearing dresses or female identifying wearing dresses or female clothing. Uh,
that's where my opinion differs. I don't care about gay marriage because love is love, and I really, really want people to love one another. It's better than the crap that's going on with the hatred that's going on. But
yeah.
I think that uh, people not dressing uh, to the norm can confuse some of our younger generation. Uh, so that's just my
But,
opinion.
okay, but let me ask something. Why are you okay with gay people marrying? Do you are you like what about that? Why do you
Well,
advocate for that?
I think that anybody,
Aside from love is love, of course, right? Like I get
well,
that, but why?
also, I know the stigma of being single. And uh, if you live together, 2 men or 2 women, now business-wise, you got to file separate income taxes, I believe, unless they change the tax law, and you get banged pretty good. I know I have to file since your grandmother passed away. I got to file as a single person,
Right.
and so being married is advantageous to one, whether they're gay or not gay, and married or not married, married gay or not married gay. But I just think that as long as whatever you keep in your house uh, is private, um, you want to walk around hugging each other, that's fine. I don't care. Uh, but I have a problem with certain things that young people may not understand because young people are very um, get confused over certain things in a normal household.
Okay, so then uh two things of point on this. One, I'll respond to this part, and then I'll say my thing that I was originally intending. Um, Rather than advocating for certain demographics to stay indoors or be more modest, would it be better to teach these kids in school in a healthy, safe environment where they have the freedom to ask questions and learn from professionals or people who are
Yes,
educated?
yes, but
Okay.
they don't. But they don't, and that's the
No,
problem.
that's fair, but I'm only bringing that up because I wanted to see your point on that because some
Yeah.
people believe that it should just be I'm okay with gay marriage, but it's got to stay over here, and it's and you're concerned about the youth being confused. If you're concerned about that, and I advocate for okay, then let's educate the public, and you're agree with that, cool. That's all I was looking for. Now, the other thing I
Mhm.
was going to say, I am leading with this a little bit, but when are you would you say that people who are the fact that you accept or you are okay with gay marriage occurring, would you say that's in part because it's their body and their choice?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's their body and their choice, then it should also be their body and their choice to wear whatever clothing they want.
Again, within the confines of their own home, I don't want them, I'm repeating myself, to confuse the younger generation. Or there are people, if I don't like it, it's my privilege not to like it. But there's
Correct.
some people that won't accept it and then become harmful. And I worry about that.
What do you mean harmful?
We got we got gay trashers. People,
Thrashers?
people that hit on harm gays just because they're gay. Imagine,
Oh yeah, well that's just hateful people doing hate crimes. That's like that's the same as like racism in that,
yeah,
people get attacked for their skin color.
that would initiate. I definitely feel if you had, for example, two men married and one dressed as a woman with lipstick and so and so. I think that would, whether if they went to a restaurant or if they went out into public, if they went to a church, I don't think people are ready to accept that today.
Well,
So,
interestingly, I have to say that I think your understanding of this is a bit outdated. There are many men who identify as men or who identify as women uh, who wear makeup. They a wig, makeup, a dress, and everything, and you could not tell that they were previously or they got meat between their legs. You cannot tell, and
oh, I
so
know, I know.
obvious and now obviously, right, within this context we have to have recognition, and I'm going to say it just so that we understand the obvious. There are outliers to everything we talk about. There will be outliers where there are men who dress up as women, and it's a very showboaty provocative way that is disingenuous and feels like it's specifically to show the stereotypes of trans people and people who dress in that nature. And they are often used as the examples within these cases.
Okay.
But the majority of them are not in that situation. And I understand the fear that you may have for these people that they may get hate crimed. Absolutely. Um, but
Look in Florida what happened when they bombed the nightclub the gay
right,
nightclub a few
right.
years ago.
The reason that stuff happens, the way to solve that, I should say, the way to solve that problem is not by forcing or asking or demanding these people stay indoors and hide, because that only empowers the people who do damage to them. The way you solve this is by outlawing these types of hate crimes and going after these people, educating people, because people who tend to have these beliefs are deeply, deeply uneducated, and separating church and state, removing people's sense of power through their religion, because their religion should not be empowering them to do anything lawful in any sense,
Yeah, well,
and
that's
it
what.
should not be dictating the law at all.
Yeah, and
You
I
are
don't think.
entitled to your opinion. You are allowed to believe and think whatever you want. That's
Yes.
part of what makes America America, at least maybe in a previous time, maybe not now, but
Yeah.
like you're allowed to
You're
have your
right.
own
Previous
beliefs.
time.
Right,
Previous
right.
time.
Maybe for some people. But
What
you're
bothers me is when you get a big movement like the Baptist churches of the United States moving together to overturn things, and then
yeah, but
individuals.
historically that's nothing new. I mean, every state has a diocese for the Catholic Church, has a how do too many words. Every state has a central diocese that has a fund that goes towards paying off sexual assault victims that their priests and pastors deal with. There are so many cases of priests and pastors touching you like minors that they have a fund, a separate banking funding system where that money go is specifically for these court cases. I know this because I made two videos about this like a month or two ago, where New Jersey, there's a major investigation with New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions. I'm not talking 10,000 or 5,000, hundreds of millions of dollars and over 700 plus kids. Um, so it like this is nothing new. The church choreographing across state lines to be against gay community, the community that's been prosecuted by this church for decades. Uh, I mean, it like it's it's nothing new. So is it a problem? Absolutely. Should it? Do I wish it was not? 100%. But is it any surprise that they're doing it? No.
No, no. Uh, Now, along with this topic, um, again, if I'm reading it properly,
Yeah.
uh, our president said he doesn't want to allow new transgenders into the armed forces.
Okay.
I think I read it correctly, but if I'm not, and you could tell me.
Hmm.
But I'm pissed off about that because if you're an American citizen and you're paying taxes and you love your country, you should be able to fight for your country. Case in point, the United States Bree Fram is a gender woman who was just made the highest ranking officer. She was made a colonel, and she's in there for many years. She served in many different dangerous situations. And when you take a step where, oh, you can't enter the armed forces if you're transgender, I always worry that the next step is going to be you can't be in the armed forces if
Right.
you're transgender. And again, to me, terrible. Because if this emanates from our president, he didn't get off his fat ass and go into the army. He
Yep.
had bone spurs in his feet, and he didn't go into the army. Now, I'm sorry he had bone spurs.
Yeah, but you're also
But,
assuming that that is real and he didn't have,
yeah,
you're
but he
assuming
still
he
played.
actually had bone spurs.
Yeah, but he does play a lot of rounds of golf with these bone spurs.
Right.
So, you know, so I shouldn't have said his fat ass. I should have said his
No,
ass, his ass,
he-
his ass, you know,
so
like
here's the thing.
disrespectful.
Here's the thing. Trans people, first off, trans rights, absolutely 100%. Trans people have every right to exist as anyone else in every sense and in any capacity. Anyone who seems to have an issue with this just lacks education. Um, in terms of not allowing them into the military, if you want to take it from the angle that you said, yeah, I agree. If you're a US citizen, you have the right to join the military, and to prevent them is absurd. Additionally, according to this New York Times article, The Defense Department said 4,240 service members, or about 0.2% of those in uniform, have quote unquote a diagnosis of gender dysphoria.
About
That's what
8,000.
they're no, 4,240.
Oh, I
Four
read an
thousand.
updated, I think I read an updated one, 8,000. Because
Yeah,
the
there's a
4,200 came out, I think.
yeah, so there's a separate one that I found from Palm Center Blueprints for Sound Public Policy from 2018 that said there's 8,980 active duty and 5,724 in selected reserve. That's for transgender people. But in 2025, the Defense Department is claiming that 4,240 of them
Mm,
um, has been tracking the number of trans troops in the force. Previous estimates put the number at about 15,000, but the Department of Defense, as per this Times article, says it's 4,240. 4,240 people out of 2 million.
mm,
Uh, just for separate reference, this year alone, 2025. Where is it? 2025. 745 anti-trans bills have been brought in through Congress in 2025. We are in June, and 745 anti-trans bills were brought in. Now, the population of the US that identifies as trans is about 1%.
yeah, it's nothing.
1%. According to San Francisco's government website, 1% of 340 million people. 0.2% is in of 2 million is in active service or in the military. Making laws against these people is very specific. It is a personal problem they have with this demographic of people. There are a slew of other problems that need to be handled that are 1,000 times bigger than whatever they could come up with to go against trans people. And Trump, his cabinet, and Congress takes their time, their energy, and their money to push anti-trans bills.
Mhm.
It is pointless, a
Yeah,
waste of money, and goes against the rights of the citizens.
yeah.
They're
Well,
a U.S. citizen. Does not matter what's in. Doesn't matter what's under their shorts, what's in their pants. It does not. They're a U.S. citizen. They have the right to join the military. They have the right to fight for their country if that's what they want to do. If that's what you want to call that. To deny 4,000 to make a law that's simply fighting 4,000 people when you were supposed to be running a country with 340 million people, your priorities are deeply skewed. Deeply.
yeah. Well, you know what it comes from? A lot from not being exposed to these people. For example,
Lack of education. It comes
when
from
I,
lack of education and religion. That's it.
yeah, because
The dumbest people.
when I was teaching, and I was very young, let's go back 55 years ago. I used to think any teacher that was gay uh, shouldn't be teaching because he shouldn't be around children. But I learned there's a difference between being gay and being a criminal.
Correct.
So it took me a long time to learn
Right.
that these people are loving, some of them are loving, and most of them are loving, and they have the same rights as I do. And at some point, they were better teachers than most. But again, it's what you're exposed to in your education. And I don't think somebody's rights should be taken care of at any level. And like this woman who just became the highest ranking person in the US Army, a colonel. A name, oh, I just had it. But anyway, let me see if I got it. No, I don't have it. But it's immaterial. Uh, it's something we can't prevent somebody who loves their country from fighting for their country. Now,
Brief Ram.
yeah, brief frame. Now I want to get off of gay uh, topics. I want to talk about this immigration, what's going on in the rioting,
Yeah.
and
Well,
uh,
let's be clear. It started as protests and has devolved and escalated due to external forces into something else. But
yeah,
yeah, I am more than happy to get into this.
okay. Um, First, uh, I want to say that when President Trump in his first term said he was going to get rid of illegal immigration, people who came here illegally,
Hmm.
and criminals and such, I agreed with it wholeheartedly.
Okay.
I I think you could wipe out all the gangs in the United States.
Okay.
Um, I still agree. Yeah, stick with the gangs, and then go to the next level. I'm not going to read the article because it's very long, but um, State Senator Alina Garcia said in a statement Saturday, she's Cuban, by the way, I have always supported Trump through thick and thin. However, this is unacceptable and inhumane. She said
Hmm.
her Cuban refugee parents are now just as American, if no more so, than Stephen Miller, among the architect of Trump's immigration agenda.
Yep.
And let me just buzz down because it's a long article, because this is what gets me. Uh, Not the mobs. Uh, Pete, I'll be there in a second.
No worries. Take your time, find it.
Yeah. The American Immigration Lawyers Association says that courthouse arrests are a flagrant betrayal of basic fairness and due process
Correct.
for people who are simply following the laws,
Correct.
following the rules. Immigration courts are being weaponized. Judges are coordinating with ICE to dismiss cases and immediately funnel individuals into the fast track deportation pipeline known as expedited removal. The group said in a statement these are not fugitives, they're individuals, many of them seeking protection from torture in their country, complying with the law. And again, whether I read this correctly or not, uh, I don't think uh, ICE should have a long enough list of criminals to go find. I don't think they should be going into the courtrooms and looking to see, what I just discussed, or going into churches, or going into schools, or going into,
Do you know they're camping out in front of elementary schools?
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now, I just discussed this with one of my friends who is Cuban, and he says, and I said, you know what happens? The innocents get caught up with the guilty.
Correct.
And, and
It is very common for ICE agents to go after people be first off because at least right now, obviously it's been before, but it's more prevalent now. They are simply just going after people who fit the description. They don't have a judge signed document, warrant to go after these people. Many times they have to play on what's called ruses. They try and get you to agree to let them in the house so they can arrest you. They try and get you to agree to certain things so that they can get you because the goal is to simply they need to get their hands on you. So if you're in the house and they're on the other side of the door, they'll lie to you. They'll do anything they can to, obviously it can't be coercion, but the the goal is to get you to relinquish your rights without you realizing it. And they will say, we have a warrant. And if you don't ask, is it signed by a judge? A lot of times it's not. And they do tricks like this to get people out. Now, also, let's add in the fact that immigrants in 2022 paid more in taxes than the five richest Americans and 55 megacorporations. Because according to the American Tax Fairness, I'm reading this off of a research video that I made a while ago. They paid $96.7 billion, billion, B, in 2022. They do this with no benefits, despite what many pro-right Fox watchers will claim. And they pay their taxes because in America, you can get a temporary social security number, shall we call it. It's a ITIN. It is a temporary number. And they pay into this because it's like building credit. They're trying to show that they can be a good citizen. And this is all legal. This is part of the process when they come here. And so, or at least it's part of a process to become legal. They pay taxes that they will never see. Anytime anyone tells you that, oh, these people are using someone else's identity, that's how they're doing, it makes no sense.
Well,
If
they
if an
some
undocumented
do. It's
no,
just, you know,
but listen, hold on. If an undocumented immigrant steals my identity, how are they receiving my health benefits? They don't have my health card. They don't have my address. They have nothing. They just have my social security. They have my name. How are they going to the doctor with that? They don't have anything relating to me. And even so, if they're stealing my social security to pay taxes into, they're paying taxes for me. I get the benefit of that. Like, do you understand what I mean? They can't
yeah,
reap
but
any of these benefits.
yeah,
They they
again,
they are simply feeding into this, and they pay more in taxes than the wealthiest five Americans and 55
yeah.
megacorps.
On the other side of the coin, I agree with your facts, but the other side of the coin is, uh, where I agree with President Trump. Um, and boy, I hate to say that. Uh, we have had since 2016 so many immigrants come here from Venezuela and Mexico, some uh, looking for a better life, but a lot who are convicts who were sent here. And I really want him to get them out of here. Now, is it hard for ICE to differentiate between who's a convict and who's not?
No, not
No,
not in the slightest. Because
not in the
when I,
slightest.
I promise you, the 6-year-old girl that they had to, or I think she was three actually, that they had to deport on her own because they deported the mom separately. I promise you, she's not part of a gang. I
No,
promise you, the mom who works at the grocery store, the seamstress, or the local guy who is doing the physical labor for a tenth of the price at your local Florida farm, I promise you, he's not part of a gang, because if he was part of a gang, he'd definitely be making more money.
yeah.
So, like the rhetoric that these illegal immigrants are part of gangs is simply a wonderfully crafted narrative so that you have a common enemy, so that you can look at undocumented immigrants as criminals. That's the narrative. That's the point.
Well,
Education will
they
tell
are,
you.
they're not criminals, but they came in illegally. They're low-level criminals.
Coming again, though. So, all right. So then two things then we can do to solve these illegal immigrants. One, fix the immigration process, remove the fact that, let's fix that so that it doesn't take 10 to 12 years for people to get legal status in the US. And also, let's give all the hardworking immigrants that are here work authorizations. Because if we gave all of them work authorizations, according to the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy, it would add tax contributions. It would raise the tax contributions that these immigrants are already giving by $40.2 billion.
Good
So
idea, but you know what's
they're
the problem?
already paying 90 plus billion dollars. And if we give the ones who are working and hiding and getting paid under the table and all this stuff, if we give them work authorizations and a path to become a citizen, we will literally only benefit from it.
I
Only,
agree.
strictly.
I
The
agree.
American society would only benefit from it.
Yeah, because many of these people are such hard workers at jobs and crafts. But again, I agree with Trump. Let's get the criminals out of here.
Right. And
Uh,
so that's
but
that's that's the thing, right? Every of criminals should be punished. Absolutely, that's the point of them being a criminal is they need to be tried and they also need their due process. Let's also be clear about something. Every single immigrant that he wants to remove is required to have their due process. They have a right to in court fight for their right and fight for their case. That is in the Constitution. Anyone who says, well, they're not a legal citizen, that does not mean shit. In the Constitution, it says every person, not every legal citizen. It says every person has a right to due process. That is every single person, whether they are an immigrant or not. Now,
gets back to ICE being in the courtroom, taking people out of the courtroom and
right,
going to
that right,
prison.
and that's its own. That circles back to the beginning of what we said, which is ICE will do anything they can to kidnap these people because these immigrants are doing the thing that a lot of the MAGA Trump people claim that they should be doing. They are saying, well, why don't they do it the legal way? They're
Yeah,
going to court to do their check-ins to show that they're still paying taxes and they're still doing the things that they're doing. That's
yeah.
why they're showing up to court because they're trying to do it the legal way. The problem is all these rhetorics the rhetoric behind this is they want them to go the legal way from the outside, from over there, not in here. We don't want them here until they're perfectly exactly the way we want them.
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
Yeah.
That's not how this
Ask me why I care.
I it, you probably care because I would say you may think that they're taking jobs away or that the criminals are infecting society, shall we
Now,
say.
besides that, I want the criminals out. I've said for a long time that our gangs and our criminals that are here, a lot of them, the police can't do anything with them. They're outmanned, they're outgunned. Uh,
Yeah, I disagree with that.
but I
I
don't want to
don't.
get into that. But the reason why I care is history shows I'm Jewish, and my grandfather Harry came from Russia, and the Tsar would have his soldiers take.
Wait, hold on. We gotta pause. This is gonna cut off. We're gonna this the Zoom because we only get 40 minutes. I have another one already. We're gonna cut the tape, finish in 2 seconds. We'll be right back.
Yeah,
Okay, so
so I
you were
say,
saying your father came from Russia.
no, not my father, my grandfather. I
Grandfather,
was
sorry.
saying that uh, I'm concerned with the herd mentality where everybody gets herded and sent out of the country as a group because in Russia, the Tsar uh, drove the Jews out of Russia, Tsar Nicholas, who I think it was. I remember my grandfather getting out because it's either getting out or getting killed. And then
Hmm.
in Germany, Hitler had his stormtroopers who were sent out and they were hurting the Jews.
Correct.
And if you got out, you lived. If you didn't, you died.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that our president is the same thing as those two
I
people.
I I would say the tactics that are personally, I would say the tactics that are going on parallel that quite well. Um, because again, when you are stopping and pulling people over for their skin color and throwing them into vans and not giving them due process and holding them for days on end, and also just deporting people that like he's already done. Um, Kilmar Abrigo Garcia, one of the big newsworthy ones where he showed photoshopped images of his knuckles having MS-13. He still believes that's real, by the way. Um, the guy
Mm,
that they claimed that they deported to Venezuelan that El Salvador prison. They claimed they cannot get him back.
yeah. Well,
Do you know
Elena
he
Garcia.
do you know he's coming back? He came back
Yeah, I know.
this week. He was or last week he was announced that he's coming back. All of a
Well,
sudden they can bring him back. It's so
well,
he
Elena Garcia, who's a state senator in Florida, and who's the head of the Latinas for Trump.
mhm.
She's protesting all of this. She used to be, I think, one of Trump's mainstays. She's protesting this, but yet, my friends, they, they, I'm on both sides. You know that. I believe things are done that's correctly, things that are done that's incorrectly. Uh, not everything is done correctly or incorrectly. It's a combination of both. But uh, people who back Trump, they back Trump 100% in what he does, and
Yeah,
that's trying to
because
swerve.
because it's unfortunately developed into a religion. It's a similar factor of their religion. When the dominant religion in this country is about having a one true leader that rules above all, it is of no surprise that when a one true leader who's trying to rule above all gets those people to follow him.
Yeah.
It,
Now,
uh, there's it, so it makes perfect sense. Or if you're just someone who's trying to make as much money as possible in the most unethical way as possible, sure, yeah, that could be your prerogative, right? Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and so forth.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
And one last thing, well, unless you have more opinions on this, but uh,
I simply have it that I think some of I obviously we haven't gone through it all, but I think some of what you are advocating for in terms of the removal of some of these immigrants, I think is quite standard. If they've done something wrong, then they should have their due process and it should be dealt with. But if the answer is you're agreeing with mass deportation, the the paralleling of what we just discussed previously happened in history, then you don't care about due process. You don't care about these human lives. You are seeing these people as less than human lives because they are owed,
and
as
do
per
they
our foundational records of this country, the right to due process.
and if do they understand it? Because if a police officer, and I respect the police,
Well, oh,
we
don't, I
have,
mean, that's an
I know,
entire,
I know, I know. We don't want to get into that with you.
they're,
But
they're,
if
they're
they came,
ruses.
if two detectives came to my door and they said, we'd like to come into your house and do a search, I would say, do you have a warrant? And I would say, let me see that it's signed by a judge. Okay. But a lot of people don't understand who don't speak English as their primary language what a warrant is. And that it
Right.
has to be signed by a judge.
Right.
You can just stick it. Yeah.
That information is specifically withheld. That's not because immigrants are dumb or certain demographics of people are dumb. It's because that's not taught. That is deliberately not taught so that they can exploit that. That's because
Mhm.
if that was an important part of our Constitution was to know our rights, we and important aspects like that, we would be taught them in school.
Mhm.
We would be taught that in school right next to our math and science. But we are not taught our rights specifically so that they can be exploited in as many ways as possible through law enforcement, through ICE, through various other realms as well.
Okay. Now, one last thing on another topic,
Sure.
quickly, because I don't want to make this a super long video. Next week, I believe, there's a military march on Washington
Yeah, his
that
birthday bash.
coincides with his birthday.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came across my mind is supposed to be the 250th anniversary of the military.
Okay.
Now, the first thing that came across my mind when I read it, of course, every individual military group was going to be shown, and uh, uh, supposedly uh, the different wars, like the revolution, different dress and everything like that. And
Sure.
then all our big guns and our tanks and all that. And they said, well, what about the tanks? Aren't they going to do damage to the streets of Washington? And they
$14 million
said,
dollars.
yeah. But what crossed my mind is, okay, like my friend said, we want to show the other countries our might. But I just hope our president doesn't make this his birthday bash like North Korea and China
Yeah.
when they have their soldiers marching like Hitler. You
Right.
know,
So,
you know,
so no actual left slash democratic country has a military parade. A military parade does not influence other countries in the slightest. It is to show force and authority over the public. Because if if America wanted to show force, they'll go drop a bomb. They'll go deploy soldiers in those countries. They don't need to do that in America because it's also very obvious they're not going to be waltzing around nukes in the middle of Washington D.C. So it's not a show of force to other countries. It is a direct parade to show force to the public, to
now,
show that they are powerful.
yes. Now,
It is extremely authoritarian.
point of information. I know I'm reading too much into this. I read where there's great security that's going to be upheld during this march,
Well,
but we
it's all
got
there's going to be military people, so I don't
yeah,
think they need much security.
but it only takes one to get through. And can you imagine, God forbid, if somebody got through with a dirty bomb or something like that, with all our military there, that
It
would,
it would end in a second. In my opinion, that's I don't know if I call it the safest, but it's the most prepared demographic for that type of situation. I doubt. I would be very, very, very surprised if something like that happened because you're telling me some schmuck with who built this in his backyard is gonna is gonna do what? He's gonna lob this into the crowd of military people, get maybe 10 of them, and then the other couple thousand delete him within 8 seconds. Like what was the point here? You know what I mean? Like I, that's like saying I'm gonna go spear hunting for I'm gonna use a spear and go hunting for lions. All right, man. Good luck.
okay,
You're gonna solo a pack of lions. Good for you, dude.
yeah.
Uh,
Well,
So,
I'm
uh,
I'm finished with that. I just hope that we have some good news coming in the near future. I'm worried about the economy, but that's a separate issue. Uh, there,
well, depending on who you talk to, the a piece of good news is that there is going to be a nationwide protest on the day of his birthday bash, protesting called No King's Day because they are protesting the authoritarian narrative that is being allegedly pushed, and this parade is a authoritarian-esque, authoritarian styled event. So nationwide, all 50 states so far have been confirmed to be holding at least one event. Some states are holding more in multiple areas. Um, to protest this. So depending on
Right.
who you talk to, that's some good news.
Yeah, hopefully he
Um,
doesn't send the Marines and the National Guard in each state when there's a protest. I hope.
he tried to send the Marines to LA. They have yet to show up.
Yeah, we don't want
They have
another, I don't agree, in the past with the Los Angeles riots, but I don't agree with sending United States troops into a state. It's the governor's decision. And if the governor doesn't think it's out of control, the president shouldn't send in the army because that
well,
means
it's
he,
a direct it's a direct attack on our democracy. The fact that he's going against the governor, the just plain and simple, and then him calling for the governor to be arrested purely because he thinks that he should be, um, without any actual foundation for it. But also, one thing I wanted to bring up about that Marines, the 700 Marines that are supposed to be coming to LA, that is supposed to cost $134 million. 700 Marines for, I think it was originally supposed to be 30 days, but I think it's now going to be 60 days. Yeah. 60 days, 700 Marines, $134 million. This military parade, I don't believe is going to be $45 million. That's the estimate. The estimate for this authoritarian military birthday bash is estimating $45 million.
doesn't make a
Thousands.
difference.
No, but what I'm saying is it, well,
We'll
no, it
just
actually, hold on. It makes a
we'll just
significant
print more
difference.
money, Peter.
Oh yeah, that's right. True. My bad.
$340 million a day. We're
Yeah,
printing
fuck it.
paper.
Fuck it. Yeah, we just go to
Right?
the printer.
I need a
That
printer.
because the reason I bring that up is because anyone who is deeply pro Trump is most definitely pro Doge, Department of uh Government Efficiency. Please tell me how spending $134 million for 700 Marines is efficient for the economy and our country money wise.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, this estimated $45 million plus 14 to 16 million in damages is that's the estimate, which I think is absolute horse crap. I think it's if 134 million for 700 Marines, this parade has to be at minimum double that. Minimum. Uh you that's not that's
Yeah,
not a
well,
waste of money at all. A
yeah, well,
parade.
I think we're $3 trillion more in the hole.
Well, yeah, his big beautiful bill wanted to add two extra trillion dollars into the thing, and it was specifically to cut Medicaid and cut taxes for the rich, and the poorest people's taxes would go up 30%, and anyone making above 100,000, their taxes would go up by like 4%, and then anyone making over, I think it's 350 or 400K, and then up, their taxes would start to go down exponentially. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's hope we got gold in Fort Knox and in New York City
yeah, sure.
back some of this
Sure.
paper because the
Yeah.
only resolve, if the way we're going, I think we're down 30, we owe $37 trillion out, would
Well,
be to
yeah, the
take the
solution
gold.
is no, that's not it. They will they'll never open that because then they have to then it's Schrodinger's cat. That's why it's there. That's why they won't open it because the moment they open it, we get an answer.
Yeah, they're going to have to do like Australia did. They're going to have to raise the value of gold and silver astronomically
No, they'll
to
just
back their
no.
paper.
No, America will do what it does best, starts wars. They'll start another war and they'll be financially profitable because that's where America makes a lot of its money is war profiteering. And they'll say, look, the economy's doing good after they decimate another country. We've already
Well,
got
hopefully it's
two.
not war. Hopefully it's not war within our own country.
Well, that's its own. Well, that's not profitable, right? Like that's only semi-profitable.
Yeah.
It has to be in another country where they can use full force, where they can
Yeah.
threaten nukes. They're not going to threaten nukes on their own land. They may threaten missiles, but not nukes. They
I'm
can threaten.
interested. I'm interested in seeing if we get any response to this video abroad?
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
Not
I don't.
not from abroad, from abroad.
Yeah. I find that it is America's social media ecosystem is very walled off. It is talk about authoritarian. It is very
Yes.
difficult to get American content out of the country.
Yeah,
Specifically, like the sim in a similar fashion to how China or North Korea, with minimal media that they have, how you can't get a lot out unless you go hunting for it. Same thing. America's content is not easily received outside of the country, and that is by design.
yeah, there's a few places right now, at least a dozen to 20 places where Americans are been told not to visit.
Yeah, wait, Americans have been told not to visit, or people have not been told to visit America.
No, Americans been told not to go to these countries. It's not safe.
I presume that's probably the Middle East. Um,
But
uh, but
it's
I
extraordinary.
think there's also, I thought I read recently it was like 14 different countries have travel bans or travel cautions going to America.
I just hope that we don't have one within the United States. That would be terrible.
Tell that to Trump and his desire to sick the
Uh,
National Guard and the
yeah.
Marines on some people who don't
Again,
want immigrants being kidnapped into vans.
again,
Uh,
I don't disagree with everything he's doing, but I don't agree with a lot of what he's doing. So
I
we,
think where you agree is the core foundation, which is criminals should be punished. I don't think you agree with mass deportation and kidnapping into vans without due process, without warrants,
I
in
just believe in
unmarked
people's
unmarked
rights.
vans.
People's rights
Unmarked,
is very
yeah.
important to me. You
Right.
know,
And I think the important thing to establish is what you just said. People's rights,
yeah,
not US citizens.
yeah,
Human rights. That's the
yeah,
important thing that we need to focus on here. That a lot of people who are pro mass deportation seem to be ignoring is
yeah.
human rights. Human rights.
I remember in my
On
day,
top of US rights.
I remember in my day, the average citizen was complaining about the government doing waterboarding. Uh, that's nothing compared to what's going on today. But
The
anyway, let's.
the amount of content that I've just had to watch. That's last thing. The thing I would recommend um anyone and everyone to do if you are paying attention to what's going on in LA and what will most likely go on in across the nation on his parade. Um, if you can, if you are someone who's on social media, try to find as many firsthand boots on the ground videos of these events as, and take the legacy media, the television news, with a grain of salt, because as someone who's been watching live streams, 15 different people I've seen in the past 3 days on live, and I've seen at least 100 videos by now of people there, recorded videos. And everything I have seen is completely devoid of what a lot of these major legacy news stations are narrating. The narratives they are pushing are different. And this is of no news to anyone. It's very obvious
Mhm.
that major news outlets will shift stories to tell a certain narrative. That's, of course, why we have left and right leaning news outlets, and journalism is very broken right now. But if you are looking for as much unbiased work as possible, the best I can suggest is looking for those firsthand accounts, the people who are there, and try to work on those and get as much info from there as you can instead of people in a studio halfway across the country, or halfway across the yeah halfway across the country, or quite literally on the other side of the country, because some of these people are in New York reporting on this, telling a narrative from drone shots that they are specifically editing.
Oh, quick statement. I think the United States government now has, it costs $13 million, an attachment on any rifle that will shoot down drones, zooms in on the drones and shoots down the drones.
They they're using this tech on people's personal drones,
On
is what you're
drones. It just said on drones.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, of course, because then how are people supposed to get bird's eye views of, things
Yeah,
that they're doing wrong?
yeah.
How
So I've had enough. What's my opinion going on? Down here, my opinion is not worth very much because nobody listens. Um, it goes in one ear, out the other. I listen to other people's opinions, even if I don't agree with it. So we have a
so
different dimension here in Florida as opposed to where you're at. So
yeah, well, and that's the, again,
yeah, so that's why this would be a good podcast. What's your opinion?
yeah.
Maybe
Uh
people could write in, what's your opinion?
yeah, absolutely. If you watch this and you made it all the way through, first off, thank you. Second off, feel free to let us know what your opinion is, whether that's on YouTube if you're watching it, or on Spotify. I believe you can add comments. If you're on Apple, I can't help you, sorry. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you what's your thoughts? And I would say my final piece or suggestion, that not sponsored, but go to groundnews.com. They are a website. They are a it is a website that aggregates news on different topics, and they tell you all this information about the news that's reporting on it. They tell you who owns the news outlet that's reporting this. They tell you if they're left leaning, right leaning, or center, and they tell you how factual their data that they're presenting is.
Mhm.
So if you are someone who claims to be nonpartisan, non-biased, and you want to expand that, or you are someone who may lean right or left and wants to expand their knowledge or learn what the other side is reporting on, go to this website. Go to this website and just explore it. They tell you, they show you uh, articles and topics that maybe the left isn't reporting on, or the right isn't reporting on, or they'll say, yeah, only one right news outlet reported on this, while 15 left reported on this,
Okay.
and they link you. They don't rewrite the articles. They're simply a website that houses all of the links. So you can go to their links and then you go to that news outlet's website. So if you're someone who is claiming to be nonpartisan, go to this website and explore it, because maybe you'll find more nonpartisan news.
Yep. I think I'm gonna have to let some people know about ground news.
Yeah,
So anyway, I hope everybody stays safe and stays well. And if you're going to the president's birthday party, enjoy yourself. And if you're going to watch the U.S. Open golf tournament, it should be very surprising. It's toughest golf course maybe in the world. So you'll see some bad golf and some good golf, but enjoy the next couple of weeks, and hopefully our worries will go away. Hopefully.
I
So
would love for that to be true.
yeah. So everybody be well and peace out.
Be well. Peace out.